Hello, welcome back. This is episode number 17 of the Alfology2 podcast. So, welcome to you, and glad to have you here, glad to have you listening or watching, as it may be. If you are consuming this via YouTube, you're just as welcome as everybody else. Generally, weirdly good feedback from last week's episode, bearing in mind it was pretty off the wall. It was probably the weirdest episode we've had so far, and that is saying something, bearing in mind some of the topics which have been discussed. But yeah, despite being the weirdest episode, general feedback was pretty good. I think people appreciated the offbeat nature of what I was talking about, so thanks for that. Look, this week, the episode I'm doing, it's a bit premature. I didn't want to do it just yet, but it's sort of a bit topical. It's a little bit with what's happening at the moment, so I didn't really have much of a choice but to do it now. So here I am doing it. I would have rather have let things develop a little bit more until I did this episode, but you know, you can't always get what you want. So I'm going to do it now. I'm going to talk about what I am here to talk about. And just a bit of background to it before I give it away, before I give away the topic. This is something which I do in my spare time, is make weird stuff up, which is really what this podcast is about mostly. So if you are a listener, surely you understand that by now, that I make up some weird stuff and then generally publicize it on the internet. I think it's funny. But this is one that I've been banging on about for years, and I think people sort of appreciate it. You know, my close friends would appreciate it, that they have talked about it with me a lot, and it's a bit of a thing, and it's a bit of almost an in-joke amongst me and my friends. But anyway, we'll move on. The whole thing is about James Blunt and his album Back to Bedlam, which was released in, I think, 2004, and that it was an inside job, which I know sounds a little bit weird. How can an album be an inside job? But I will explain to you how an album can be an inside job later on. We'll get to that. I will flesh out the theory for you, or the allegations, as I'm going to put it. Look, the reason why I have to do this one right now rather than later is because it's a bit topical. And the reason why it's topical is because James Blunt is releasing music right now. He's just released a new single, and that new single will form part of an album. The song he just released is called Cold, and just to save you the trouble, it is shit. Absolutely dreadful. And the album he's going to release in conjunction is called Once Upon a Mind. It's good pun there, James. And look, that's bound to be shit as well, isn't it? So just thought I'd give you a heads up. But because that's all happening at the moment, I thought I would coincide a podcast episode about my theory or my investigation into James Blunt with the release of his new music. So here I am, and that's what I'm doing. So look, let's explain the theory. So the theory is that Back to Bedlam, i.e. his smash album in the mid-noughties, was an inside job. And what I mean by that is that there were people behind it. There were forces moving in the background which made it so successful, and that they had an agenda which was beyond just creating a successful album. So most successful albums the people behind it would only have the agenda of making money or making a successful album. So that is normally what happens. However, here I think that the agenda was different. So the allegations is that James Blunt and his management and potentially his record company, but we shall see, conspired with rap artists and the makers of synthesized music in order to create an acoustic rock or pop rock album, which was so good that no other acoustic rock album could ever live up to it. And therefore, it would kill off the genre and make way for their genres, i.e. rap and synthesized music, to come to the fore, and then they would make more money. So they killed off a whole genre for their own benefits, and Blunt was in on it, which, as a pop rock artist, is treachery. He betrayed his brethren there. He sold his soul to the devil so he could have a successful album. But ultimately, you got to follow the funding. You got to look at who could be behind it, and really, it's quite scary. You know, it could run really deep. And let's be honest, there is no good acoustic rock anymore. There is no good pop rock. I mean, people tend to hit me and go, well, what about Ed Sheeran? But he fucking raps all the time, doesn't he? Like, he raps in his songs because he now realizes that he can't make a successful album just off the back of his acoustic abilities and his singing abilities. He has to rap to make money because his genre has been destroyed by James Blunt. So let's just have a look at Blunt's albums, since I have a list of Blunt's albums since. Bearing in mind he wrote, allegedly created on his own, or with minimal help and minimal conspiracy, he allegedly created Back to Bedlam, which was an amazing album. Let's be fair, it's full of bangers. Every track is amazing. The single behind it was amazing. It's a great album, one of the best of all time. You can't top it. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating with James Blunt. And here it is. Here's his album since. You have All the Lost Souls. Oh yeah, that was shit, wasn't it? Yeah, that was shit. Then he released Some Kind of Trouble. And oh yeah, no, I got to hear that was shit as well. And then he released Moon Landing. I don't think anyone's even... We get to the point where I'm talking about albums that no one's even heard of. But yeah, Moon Landing was shit as well. Which is demonstrated by the fact that no one fucking listened to it. And finally, The Afterlove, which I think did enjoy some popularity. But the important thing to remember about The Afterlove is that it was shit. So those are the 4 albums that he's released since, which pretty much shows consistent shit across the board, and the lack of any other artist producing any good pop rock pretty much proves my theory that Back to Bedlam was the end of it. Which very much like Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf did to hard rock. Killed it off. So I think there's enough evidence there to at least show there's some merit behind the theory. But obviously, with all theories, you do need some evidence to back it up. You do need to be able to demonstrate that what you're saying is true. You can't just use conjecture. You can't just say, well, because there's no good pop rock anymore, that means it was a conspiracy. Back to Bedlam. You know, the two facts could be unconnected, and I see that. For those of you who aren't aware, I've spent 7 years working as a private investigator. It wasn't a particularly good one, but nonetheless I was there, so I thought that I should launch my own little investigation into this. And this is why I didn't want to release this podcast episode so quickly, because the investigation isn't yet finished. So we can consider this like, I don't know, maybe an interim report. So we're halfway along with the investigation. We've obtained some evidence. Some allegations have been put out there, but I would say that we're yet to complete the inquiries. So just consider this to be an interim report on the investigation, and the full report will follow at a later date. the first thing which jumps out at you when you look at James Blunt, his current life, his post Back to Bedlam life, is where he lives. He doesn't live in the UK, doesn't live in the States. He lives in Ibiza, Spain. Ibiza, nice island, Ibiza, very, very attractive. But why would a man like him want to live in Ibiza? Well, it's because it's the home of DJs, and therefore is also home to a lot of synthesized music. You see? So all his synthesized music mates who helped to fund Back to Bedlam are now on side with him over there. They protect him. They're all friends out there because they made friends during the conspiracy. You don't have to be a genius to work that out. That is obviously connected to the case. James Blunt lives in Ibiza with the DJs. Why would he do that if it wasn't an inside job? Why would an acoustic acoustic rock artist reside in Ibiza, where acoustic rock is considered to be garbage? No one listens to acoustic rock in Ibiza, do they? They listen to DJs. They listen to electronic dance music. All I'm saying is that you've just got to look at the facts. But look, maybe we can't hold that against him. Maybe it's a fluke. He just happens to live with the DJs. Maybe. So I thought I'd make some inquiries. Obviously, the best way to get a confession is to get him to confess. So I thought I would approach James Blunt directly and just ask him outright. Just ask him straight up, did you do it? So I took to Twitter. It's my only real method of contacting him, really. He's quite active on Twitter. He's actually very funny on Twitter, which I don't really believe that's him. I think he probably has writers behind it because he's a slime ball. But anyway, he is funny on Twitter. He is active on Twitter. So I thought I'd get in touch with him directly. And I'll just read you my tweet to him on the 2nd of April this year. This year being 2019, in case you're listening to this years in the future. So straight to him, to his personal handle. You know, you can only assume that he has that personal handle. There's nothing in there to suggest that it's run by his management. So I thought I'd go straight to him. This wasn't on a day where he was tweeting. This wasn't on a day where he was popular. So I thought this tweet might get right through, but apparently not. I said to him, do you or do you not admit that your album, Back to Bedlam, was an inside job orchestrated by the rap and or synthesized music industry? Very, very clearly laid the allegations out to him. But he didn't respond. Not a sausage out of him. So I tweeted him again and said that his silence was deafening. But again, no response. Which, I don't know about you, but to me, that feels like the actions of a guilty man, avoiding the question, avoiding being investigated, doing anything he can, hiding in Spain away from the investigation, ignoring attempts to contact him about what he's done. So I just thought I'd ramp it up a little bit, try and goad him into responding, into getting involved, and then I could get the confession out of him. So I said that I'm coming for you, James, and not in a way that feels nice, but I think has a nice threatening edge to it. If a little bit sexually aggressive, which potentially I now regret because I've just put that on record. But back to serious face. So yeah, I said I'm coming for him and not in a way that feels nice. So look, I thought that might get him to engage, but it didn't. So there's not much you can do from there. Direct request for contact, direct request for comment, and he hasn't responded. So, fair play. I have to continue the investigation in some other way. And what do? I have to go to his management, which I didn't really want to do. I'd rather sort this out sort of mano a mano. But It didn't work out that way. So I had to go to his management. Unfortunately, his management aren't that easy to find. If you Google James Blunt management, you get a load of stuff which is about like event management companies who have once put on an event for James Blunt. So you don't actually get his manager if you Google it. But I decided to use my limited investigation skills, and I was able to find a website with all of the details of many managers in the music industry, and it's listed by artist. So I've managed to find James Blunt. It says, do you want James Blunt's manager? You have to pay to get his details. I'm like, fuck that, I'm not paying. Like, this is a very low budget investigation, which I'm describing on a very low budget podcast. So what I did, what there was his manager's first name. And I thought, well, I'll find it from that. I won't tell you his name because, well, it's not really fair. Like, James Blunt's a massive celebrity. You know, he's an open target, but I think his manager is probably a little bit more small time. Probably not fair to be dishing his name out in a forum like this. But anyway, I had his first name from this website. Just give you a little tidbit. So I googled James Blunt with this guy's name, and there's a bunch of articles giving me his first name and his last name and where he works and which management company he works for. So I was therefore able to find the management company, and I was able to send them a direct request for comment. And I obviously wanted to structure this in such a way that I would get a response. So I wrote them a very long, professional-ish email to try and get a response out of them, or at least a letter from their lawyers telling me to piss off. I wasn't rude to them. In fact, I'll read you the email. Here we go. I'll get it up and I'll read it to you. So, yeah, the subject line of the email is allegations against James Blunt. I thought I'd get him interested early on. Allegations against James Blunt. People, if you're reading that and you're his manager, you might be thinking like, oh, it's a bit Me Too-y. What's James done back in the day? So that was the thinking behind it, really. So I got their attention and then I dove in. Good day to whomever it may concern. So be friendly. Thank you for taking the time to read this email. Again, I'm being very friendly there. So thank you for taking the time to read this email. I will get straight to the point. I am an extremely freelance private investigator, currently in the process of opening investigation into Mr. Blunt's conduct in the lead up to the release of his album Back to Bedlam. The allegations are, as of so far, not substantiated by evidence and are on the basis of information received from a human intelligence source. Obviously, the human intelligence source is me. I thought it up, but I thought it sounded a little bit more professional if it acts like I've had a tip-off. But yeah, we continue. As Mr. Blunt failed to assist from direct contact previously, which he didn't he? Obviously. I did directly contact him on Twitter and he didn't respond. So, as Mr. Blunt has failed to assist from direct contact, I was hoping you may be able to shed some light on this. It has been alleged that Mr. Blunt colluded with certain members of the rap and synthesized music industry when composing and recording Back to Bedlam. The suggestion is that he received clandestine additional funding and support from these entities. The purpose of this was to create a pop rock album so good that no subsequent album in the genre could live up to its mind-bogglingly high standards. I'll read that sentence again. The purpose of this was to create a pop rock album so good that no subsequent album in the genre could live up to its mind-bogglingly high standards. By destroying the genre, this allowed rap and synthesized music to come to the fore and therefore make significant profits for those behind this conspiracy. So I've laid out the allegations. I'm saying that Mr. Blunt or James Blunt has colluded with the rap and synthesized music industry. So I've told them what we're alleging here. And I moved on to the next paragraph where I said, as it turned out, Mr. Blunt was successful in creating such an album, which caused a shockwave throughout the music section of the space-time continuum. Since then, no one has been successful in creating any decent pop rock. This fact also indicates to me that he was never capable of producing bangers in the first place, and could only do so with the perhaps illegitimate support he received. This is demonstrated by the simple reality that the material produced by James Blunt himself since has been total garbage. Some people might argue that Ed Sheeran has had success in this genre, but this has largely been through incorporating rap into his songs. Furthermore, it is noted that there are some very successful individuals who shared a record label with James at the time. However, it would be unwise to reveal their details at this stage due to the fact that the investigation is ongoing. You may be wondering why this is a cause for investigation. Well, there are two main parties who may have been damaged by these actions, if the allegations are found to be true. First of all, music consumers have been damaged if this is true. There are pop rock enthusiasts who have had their beloved genre deprived from them for the last 15 years. In addition, there are many competent pop rock artists who are now unable to make a living in this modern era. None of this would have happened without the alleged collusion of James Blunt and the rap/synthesized music industry. I look forward to receiving your prompt response in this matter. If Mr. Blunt is available for an interview to smooth the matter over, this would be agreeable. Please let me know if I can be of any further assistance. The absolute warmest regards, from Alfie. So I sent that off, and I waited for a response. And then I waited, and I waited, and I waited. No response came. They ignored it, buried it. Or maybe it's still with their lawyers and they're still looking at it. But unfortunately, that did appear to be something of a dead end. But, you know, I'm a tenacious guy. I don't give up. I have an ass that won't quit. I went onto Twitter. I found the manager on Twitter. I turned notifications on so whenever he tweeted, I would get a notification, and I waited. Didn't have to wait very long. A couple of days later, he puts out a tweet. I'll read the thread to you, the back and forth between the manager and I. The original tweet which he put up has actually been deleted. I don't know why he's deleted it, or maybe I do know why he's deleted it because the subject matter was questionable. He tweeted a picture of some marketing material by the band The Chainsmokers, and in this picture, I think it's the lead singer has his shirt off, and he was basically alleging on Twitter that the Chainsmokers were using their sexuality to become more popular with the LGBT audience, or specifically the gay male audience. That's what he was suggesting the Chainsmokers were doing by posting photos with their shirts off. That was his allegation there. He's since deleted that, which I think is probably a right decision because that actually wasn't a very good tweet. But anyway, I was able to respond to him there. I thought I had him at this point. And I said, before we get into this, you can decide for yourself when we're going through this. But I reckon there's a point where he realizes that I'm the guy who sent the email with the allegations. Like, at first, I don't think he thinks it's me, but I think there's a point where he goes, "Oh shit, this is that bloke this is that weirdo who keeps on emailing us." But you can make your mind up if he thinks that, and you can also make your mind up as to what point you think he recognizes that. Anyway, so he's put this post up about the Chainsmokers, and are they deliberately trying to appeal to a gay male audience? So I say to him, are you suggesting that some jiggery pokery is going on in order to make some more money and sell some more albums? So I've laid the groundwork there. I've tried to get him to allege that somebody else is engaging in a conspiracy to sell more albums. I wasn't really expecting a response, but I got one. He says, maybe not. I'm just asking the question. Marketing can be a very versatile tool. Which is, a decent response from him, so fair play. So I went back to him and I said, I certainly agree that such conspiracies can happen. I've been looking at a different one recently, i.e., I've been looking into you and your corrupt friend, James. These inside jobs are more common than you think. Setting him up again. And by this point, I was totally fangirling, by the way. I never expected to get this far with this absolute nonsense bullshit investigation. So I was absolutely loving this. Texting all my friends saying, what do I do now? I'm so excited. I always froze up on the spot, didn't know what to do. Anyway, he replies to my inside jobs comment and said, it's just food for thought, Alfie. Again, nothing wrong with appealing to all audiences. That's the key to success in entertainment. And these guys are at the top of their game. I only question deliberate moves to target specific audiences. Anyway, onwards and upwards to this lot. So that's a pretty good response, pretty neutral. But I felt like we were dancing around the topic a little bit, so I decided to go in for the jugular a little bit. So I said to him, what about deliberate moves to isolate and remove the popularity of a specific genre, i.e. kill off acoustic rock? That's essentially what happened with Back to Bedlam, but I guess it's unclear if that was a deliberate move or a coincidence. So just setting him up nicely there again, trying to just spar with him a little bit. Was Back to Bedlam a conspiracy? Was it not? Could be a coincidence, couldn't be not. I think this is actually the point where he notices, and this is the last tweet I got from him, but I think this is the bit where he goes, oh yeah, this is that twat who's been emailing me. So he says that campaign was a total anomaly. There was a planned campaign for months before, but then a runaway train appeared on the back of a surprise monster single. The monster single in question would be You're Beautiful, which obviously was massive. It was number one everywhere and went platinum and all that jazz, didn't it? So, fair play. He then continued. He said, it was a total surprise and an incredible story took hold, so nothing deliberate there. All right, mate. And he said, anyway, good to hear your thoughts. I think that was pretty much him shutting me down. But anyway, I'm taking that as an official comment. He said there was nothing deliberate there. He was saying that it was just a monster single, i.e. You're Beautiful, a really great single, took off out of nowhere, total coincidence, and that was why the album got big. Some people might call bullshit. So I just went back to him and said, that sounds like a conveniently believable story. I guess the single was perhaps too good to be true. Thank you for taking the time to address this. Appreciated. And then we left it there. So that's about as far as we've got. I've managed to get a comment out of the manager. I was pretty happy with that. And look, there is further investigation to come. We're going to approach the record company, going to approach some rappers, we're going to approach some synthesized music people, and we'll see where we get to. We'll see if we can get a confession out of anybody. But for now, what we've obtained is a little bit of evidence about Blunt living in Ibiza with all the DJs. It's convenient. His repeated unwillingness to reply to direct attempts for contact. His silence really is deafening there. An ignored email to his manager, again, more silence. And then a comment from his manager directly on Twitter after I'd cornered him, denying the entire thing. So any evidence now to suggest that that did happen and it was an inside job would make his manager a liar, but I would like to just confirm that that evidence does not currently exist anywhere, so we shall see. The investigation will be ongoing. I will update you in due course. Hopefully I can at least get something funny out of some other agents or rappers or something. You never know, I might get something decent. That's pretty much the podcast for this week. Same as usual, do the thumbs up, do the 5 stars, do the subscribe thing. Follow me on Twitter, Alfology2. Like on Facebook, Alfology2 Podcast. All that jazz. Do listen next week. I don't know what will be on next week. I've got a few decent ideas knocking around, so we'll see how we go. And If you are a new listener, because I'm probably going to send this to some James Blunt forums so I can enrage some of his fans, do listen to some other episodes. They're not all about James Blunt. In fact, they're all pretty different, to be honest. There's not really any two connected episodes. They're all pretty bizarre. Hopefully, at least some of them are entertaining enough. So do go and listen to the other ones. There's hours and hours and hours of content now. So do go and do that. Other than that, thanks for listening. I'll see you next week and enjoy your week.